There are touches, and then there are touches that don't really seem like touches at all. They're so small you almost convince yourself they never happened. Her fingers brush your arm while she's laughing. She fixes something on your shoulder that didn't need fixing. She lightly taps your hand after making a joke, and hours later, you're still thinking about it. Not because of the touch itself, because of what your mind keeps asking afterward. Did that mean something? Or am I just imagining it? If you've ever been caught in that quiet battle inside your own head, stay with me. And if these conversations help you see people, and yourself, a little more clearly, subscribe before we go any further. There are some things about human connection that most people never stop long enough to notice, because what makes a touch meaningful isn't the skin, it's everything surrounding it. Silence, timing, comfort, permission, emotion. Most men spend years trying to decode words, but feelings often whisper long before words ever arrive. I remember talking to a man who insisted he could never tell when a woman liked him. He wasn't shy, he wasn't inexperienced. He simply believed attraction had to be obvious. Big smiles, direct flirting, clear compliments. Anything less, he ignored. Then he told me about a woman at work. Nothing dramatic ever happened. No romantic conversations, no obvious signals, just little moments. Whenever they stood side by side looking at the same screen, she'd lean slightly closer than necessary. If she laughed, her shoulder would gently bump into his. When handing him a coffee, instead of placing it on the desk, she'd wait until his hand reached hers. Only for a second, then she'd let go. He never thought much of it, until months later. She admitted she'd liked him almost from the beginning. His first response wasn't excitement. It was confusion. Why didn't I see it? Because many men are taught to look for certainty. Human emotions rarely offer certainty. They offer patterns. And patterns are quieter. Now, this doesn't mean every casual touch is attraction. Some people naturally touch everyone while talking. Some cultures are far more physically expressive. Some personalities simply have smaller personal boundaries. That's why focusing on a single gesture can lead you somewhere your imagination wants to go, instead of where reality actually is. The interesting part isn't whether she touched you, it's why that moment felt different. Think about the last time someone touched your arm. Most likely, you forgot it almost immediately. Now think about the one you still remember. Notice something? It wasn't random. There was eye contact. Maybe she smiled first. Maybe she hesitated. Maybe she looked away afterward. Maybe the conversation suddenly felt softer, almost slower. That's because our brains rarely separate physical contact from emotional context. We remember how someone made us feel far more than what they physically did, and women often understand this instinctively. Not as a strategy, just as part of how emotional safety develops. When someone begins feeling comfortable around another person, the invisible distance between them often starts shrinking before they consciously realize it. First, they face you more directly. Then they stay in conversations a little longer. Then personal space becomes less personal. It's subtle, almost invisible, but something else usually happens before the first meaningful touch. Almost nobody notices it. She stops protecting her own space. That sounds strange, doesn't it? But watch carefully. When people feel uncertain, they naturally create tiny barriers. A handbag, folded arms, a coffee cup held close to the chest. A phone suddenly becomes fascinating. These aren't signs someone dislikes you. Often they're simply signs they're still deciding how safe the interaction feels. Then one day, without thinking, those little barriers disappear. And that's when something much more revealing can quietly begin. Not the touch itself, the pause that comes just before it. That pause. It's so brief most people never notice it. But once you do, you can't unsee it. Imagine you're standing together after a conversation that should have ended 30 seconds ago. Neither of you is in a hurry. She's holding her keys, turning them slowly in her hand. You say something ordinary, nothing clever, nothing rehearsed. She smiles, looks at you. Then there's this tiny hesitation. Not awkward, just suspended. And instead of stepping back, she reaches out and lightly brushes a piece of lint from your shirt. There. That's all she says. Then she smiles again. To anyone walking past, it looks meaningless. To the two people inside that moment, it can feel strangely intimate. Not because of the lint, because she found a reason to cross a boundary that a few weeks ago probably wouldn't have existed. People don't usually move closer to someone they feel emotionally distant from. Not always, but often enough that it's worth paying attention. Notice I didn't say, "She definitely likes you," because life doesn't work that way. Sometimes a touch is just kindness. Sometimes it's habit. Sometimes it's nothing more than someone's warm personality. But when physical closeness starts appearing alongside emotional closeness, that's when the picture begins to change. This is where many men become their own worst enemy. The moment they notice a possible sign, they stop being present. Instead of hearing what she's saying, they're analyzing. She touched my shoulder. Was that intentional? Does she do that with everyone? Meanwhile, she's still talking, and suddenly she feels something she can't quite explain. He's here, but he's gone. You'd be surprised how quickly people sense when someone leaves the moment to live inside their own thoughts. Connection fades in silence, not the peaceful kind, the distracted kind. I've watched conversations change because one person became so focused on decoding signals that they forgot to enjoy the person standing in front of them. Ironically, confidence rarely comes from finding answers. It comes from becoming comfortable without having all of them. There's another detail that often goes unnoticed. When a woman feels emotionally relaxed around someone, her touch tends to lose its purpose. At first, contact usually has a reason. Passing you something, getting your attention, showing you where to stand, perfectly practical. Then, the reasons become thinner. She laughs and briefly touches your forearm. She playfully nudges you after teasing you. She gently straightens your sleeve while continuing the conversation, as if she didn't even think about it. The touch isn't solving a problem anymore. It's becoming part of the conversation itself. That's a meaningful shift. Not proof, just a shift. Because physical comfort often grows quietly, almost in the background, while two people are focused on something much more important. Feeling understood. Think about that for a second. Most people believe attraction begins with appearance. Appearance opens the door. But emotional safety is often what invites someone to stay. A woman might notice your face in 5 seconds. She notices how she feels around you over time. Does she feel rushed, judged, like she has to perform? Or can she exhale a little? Can she laugh without worrying whether it sounded silly? Can a silence exist without becoming uncomfortable? Those moments shape attraction more than many people realize. And they shape touch too, because touch often follows comfort, not the other way around. Still, there's one place where genuine interest becomes surprisingly difficult to hide. It's not during the conversation, it's not even while she's touching you, it's what happens the instant she pulls her hand away. That tiny reaction afterward can reveal far more than the touch ever did. Most people pay attention to the contact, very few notice what happens after it. And strangely, that's often where the emotion slips through. Picture this. You're both standing outside after dinner with friends. Someone tells a joke. She laughs, reaches out without thinking, and rests her hand on your arm for just a second. Then she realizes what she did. Her hand leaves, but something doesn't. Maybe she keeps looking at you a little longer than the joke deserves. Maybe she smiles to herself before looking away. Maybe she suddenly seems just a little quieter. It's subtle. So subtle that if you were trying to collect proof, you'd probably miss it. But emotions rarely announce themselves. They leak out in tiny pieces. This is why I always tell people not to isolate one moment. Look for the rhythm. Does she find reasons to be near you more often than she used to? Does she seem more relaxed when you're around? Does conversation feel easier, almost like neither of you is trying so hard anymore? Because genuine interest often looks less like fireworks and more like familiarity arriving earlier than expected. There's another moment that fascinates me. It happens when a woman feels safe enough to become slightly playful. Not loud, not dramatic, just lighter. She teases you about the way you hold your coffee. She gently pushes your shoulder after you pretend to be offended. She shakes her head, smiling, and says, "You're impossible." Notice what's happening. The touch isn't the message. The emotion behind it is. Playfulness can be one of the quiet ways people test emotional closeness. They're wondering, can we share this little world together? Not everyone does this, of course. Some people flirt with words, others with long conversations. Others barely flirt at all because they're naturally reserved. That's why comparing one woman to another almost never works. People express affection differently. What matters is whether her behavior with you feels different from how she behaves with everyone else. That difference, that's where the clues usually live. Now let me tell you about something that confuses many men. Sometimes a woman who genuinely likes you touches you less than the woman who doesn't. Sounds backwards, doesn't it? But think about what nervousness does. When someone cares about your opinion, they may become more aware of themselves. They wonder if they're being obvious. They replay simple moments in their mind. Did I stand too close? Did he notice? So instead of moving closer, they become unexpectedly careful. That's why attraction isn't always expressed through confidence. Sometimes it's expressed through restraint, through hesitation, through almost reaching out and stopping. You've probably experienced something similar yourself. You wanted to send a message, you typed it, deleted it, typed it again. Not because you didn't care, because you cared more than you wanted to admit. Women can experience those same quiet conflicts. And when they do, the signs become softer, not stronger. Which brings us to something almost nobody talks about. The most meaningful touch is rarely the boldest one. It's the one that feels completely natural. No performance, no awkward explanation, no dramatic pause. She simply forgets, for a brief moment, that there's supposed to be distance between the two of you. That kind of comfort can't usually be forced. It grows. Conversation after conversation, smile after smile, small moment after small moment. And then, without either of you planning it, there's almost no space left to protect. But there's one touch that stands apart from all the others. It's so ordinary that most men overlook it completely. Yet when it happens in the right moment, it can quietly reveal that she's no longer just enjoying your company. She's beginning to imagine what it might feel like if you became part of her everyday life. It usually happens when there's no audience, no one to impress, no reason to make a statement. You're walking side by side after spending a few hours together. The conversation has slowed down, not because you've run out of things to say, but because neither of you feels the need to fill every silence. That's a different kind of comfort. She notices something on your jacket. Without asking, she smooths the fabric with the palm of her hand. Or maybe she gently adjusts your collar. It lasts 2 seconds, maybe less. Then she keeps talking as though nothing happened. Most men either overreact or completely miss it. But think about that moment. She wasn't trying to get your attention, she already had it. She wasn't trying to flirt in an obvious way. There was no performance. What she did was caring, small, instinctive. And that's what makes it interesting. When people begin imagining someone as part of their emotional world, they often start caring about little things. Your comfort, your mood, whether you're cold, whether you've eaten, whether you seem unusually quiet today. Touch sometimes becomes an extension of that care, not because they planned it, because it feels natural. That doesn't automatically mean romance. Friends can be thoughtful too, family members certainly are. But if that quiet care appears alongside growing emotional closeness, alongside longer conversations, shared jokes, lingering eye contact, and a genuine curiosity about your life, the picture becomes much clearer than any single gesture ever could. There's something else I've noticed over the years. A woman who's genuinely interested often becomes more observant than she realizes. She remembers the story you forgot you told. She notices you've had a difficult day before you've admitted it. She asks about something you mentioned weeks ago. Then, while you're talking, her hand briefly rests on your arm. Not to interrupt, not to persuade. Almost as if she's saying, "I'm here, keep going." Those moments rarely feel loud. They feel safe. And safety has a strange effect on attraction. It slows everything down. The world becomes quieter. You're no longer wondering how to impress each other. You're simply enjoying being understood. Ironically, that's where many relationships begin. Not with sparks flying across the room, but with relief. Relief that someone finally feels easy to be around. Now, there's a mistake I hope you never make. Never treat someone's touch like a reward you've earned, or a puzzle you've solved. The moment you believe you've figured her out, you stop paying attention to who she actually is. People aren't codes. They're changing, feeling, complicated human beings. Some days they'll be warm, other days they'll be distracted. Their behavior can shift because they're tired, stressed, excited, or simply lost in their own thoughts. That's why emotional maturity isn't about collecting signs. It's about staying curious, Listening, observing without rushing, allowing someone's actions to unfold over time instead of forcing them into a story that makes you feel certain. Because certainty, especially in the beginning, is often an illusion. Connection grows in uncertainty. Trust grows in uncertainty. Even love, in many cases, begins there, before either person knows exactly where this is going. And then something unexpected happens. The touches become less memorable, not because they matter less, but because they become normal, natural, almost invisible. The extraordinary becomes ordinary, and strangely, that's one of the strongest signs of all. Because when closeness stops feeling unusual, it has usually become part of everyday life. Still, there's one final detail that quietly separates genuine interest from simple friendliness. It's not where she touches you, it's what she hopes you'll feel after she does. When people talk about attraction, they usually ask the wrong question. Where did she touch you? As if the location holds the answer. But after years of watching people fall for each other, and sometimes drift apart, I've learned something much quieter. The better question is, how did you feel in the moments after? Not excited, not flattered. Those feelings can happen for all kinds of reasons. I mean something deeper. Did you feel calmer? More accepted? Like you didn't have to prove yourself for a few seconds? Because when someone's interest is genuine, their presence often leaves you feeling lighter, not more confused. Yes, attraction can be exciting. It can make your heart race. But the connections that last often carry another feeling underneath all that excitement. Peace. I think that's why so many men remember tiny moments for years. Not the expensive date, not the perfectly planned evening, but the afternoon when she reached over and brushed a leaf off his shoulder. The time she laughed so hard she instinctively grabbed his arm. The moment she quietly squeezed his hand before walking into a room full of strangers. Those memories stay because they weren't about perfect timing. They were about emotional truth. For just a second, someone forgot to protect themselves. Someone let closeness happen naturally. And that's surprisingly rare. There's something else I'd like you to carry with you. If a woman touches you in a way that feels warm, respectful, and genuine, don't rush to decide what it means. Stay present. Notice the whole picture. How does she look at you? Does she seem curious about your thoughts? Does she make room for you in conversations? Does she remember the little details that most people forget? Does she seem comfortable enough to let silence exist without feeling the need to escape it? Because attraction isn't usually one grand signal. It's often dozens of quiet moments that begin pointing in the same direction. And if those moments never become something romantic, they still mattered. They meant two people shared a space where they felt safe enough to be real. That's never wasted. One of the healthiest things a man can learn is this. You don't have to chase certainty every time someone shows kindness. Sometimes it's simply kindness. Sometimes it's the beginning of something beautiful. You don't always know which one it is right away, and that's okay. Real connection doesn't demand instant answers. It asks for patience, for attention, for honesty. So if she reaches out and lightly touches your arm one day, smile, stay grounded, keep listening. Don't immediately start writing a future in your head. Let the next conversation happen, and the one after that. Give feelings room to breathe, because people reveal themselves over time, not in isolated moments. The irony is, the men who seem the most emotionally attractive are often the ones who don't panic over every possible sign. They notice, they appreciate, but they don't force meaning where there may not be any. That quiet confidence creates space, and in that space, someone feels safe enough to come closer on their own. Maybe that's what you've been looking for all along. Not a secret signal, not a guaranteed sign, just a way to stop second-guessing every meaningful moment. Because when someone is genuinely interested, they rarely communicate it through one perfect touch. They communicate it through consistency, through comfort, through the feeling that somehow being close to you has started to feel natural. And when that happens, you usually won't need to ask whether she wanted to reach out. You'll already know. Not because someone on the internet told you, but because the connection between the two of you quietly answered the question long before either of you ever said it out loud.